Stop looking for the perfect workout app. Stop obsessing over the angle of your pinky finger on the cable crossover. You are focusing on the curtains, but your house is sinking into a swamp. Arnold Schwarzenegger didn't build the greatest physique in history by worrying about optimal studies. He built it by mastering the boring, painful, brutal basics that you are trying to avoid. We are tearing down your shaky foundation and pouring concrete using the lost secrets of the golden era. Look at the modern gym. Really look at it for a second. It looks less like a place to forge warriors and more like a sanitized science lab. Or worse, a spa with heavy objects. You walk in and the air conditioning is set to a crisp 68 degrees, so you don't accidentally sweat too much. There's high-speed Wi-Fi so you can upload a selfie between sets of lateral raises. There are machines that look like they were designed by NASA, with digital counters to track your reps, because apparently counting to 12 has become too difficult for the modern human brain. It is clean, it is comfortable, it is optimized. And yet, look around at the people using this high-tech paradise. Why do 90% of them look exactly the same as they did last year? Why is everyone obsessed with optimal biomechanics, but nobody seems to have any actual muscle? Now, let's rewind 50 years. Let's go to Venice Beach in the 1970s, the Gold's Gym of the golden era. It was a dungeon. It was dark. It smelled like rust, stale sweat, and tuna. There was no air conditioning. If you were hot, you opened a door. The equipment wasn't ergonomic. It was welded together by guys who cared about durability, not your comfort. The dumbbells were loose and rattled when you lifted them. There were no influencers setting up tripods in the squat rack. But here is the kicker. The guys training in that dungeon with that garbage equipment built physiques that are still considered the absolute peak of human potential today. They looked like Greek gods carved out of granite. Meanwhile, the guy at your gym with the $300 lifting shoes and the app that calculates his cortisol levels looks like he's never lifted a grocery bag in his life. This contradiction brings us to the most dangerous trap in fitness. We call it the swamp. You see, most people today are trying to build a mansion. They want the arms, the chest, the V-taper, the big, impressive structure. But they are trying to build this mansion on a swamp. The swamp is the illusion of complexity. It's the endless stream of scientific studies telling you that the bench press is suboptimal for chest growth. It's the fitness guru screaming that if you eat a carbohydrate after 6 p.m., you will instantly lose all your gains. It is the noise. The swamp convinces you that complexity equals effectiveness. It seduces you into thinking that if a workout is complicated, if it requires a spreadsheet and a degree in physics to understand, it must be better. But Arnold Schwarzenegger knew the truth. He knew that the swamp is where potential goes to die. Arnold didn't build the greatest chest in history by worrying about the angle of his pinky finger during a cable fly. He didn't sit around debating whether he should do 3 sets or 4 sets based on a study from a university he'd never heard of. There is a famous story about a guy asking Arnold what the secret was to his calf development. The guy was expecting some secret angle, some hidden machine, some magic rep range. Arnold looked at him and said, "I did calf raises until I couldn't walk. Then I did a few more." That's it. That is the difference between the foundation and the swamp. While you are worrying about the curtains and the chandelier, the supplements, the wrist wraps, the perfect playlist, your house is sinking into the mud because you never poured the concrete. You skipped the boring, brutal, heavy basics. Today, we are draining the swamp. We are going to tear down that shaky structure you've been trying to build, and we are going to pour a foundation so thick and so strong that you could park a tank on it. We are going back to the blueprint that created the golden era. We are going to discuss the 5 pillars of Arnold's foundation. These are not tips. These are laws. And I need you to pay close attention because while all 5 are critical, if you skip pillar number 3, you might as well cancel your gym membership. and take up knitting, because without it, nothing else you do will matter. You are currently suffocating in the noise of modern fitness. It is time to breathe. It is time to simplify. It is time to build. Let's be honest about the tools you are using. If you walk into a commercial gym today, it feels less like a training facility and more like an amusement park for adults. There are rows and rows of sleek, shiny machines with ergonomic leather seats, digital displays, and cup holders for your energy drink. Modern marketing has done a brilliant job of convincing you that you need these things. They tell you that you simply must use this specific isolation machine to target the inner lower head of your pectoral muscle, or else your chest will look weird. I am going to let you in on a secret. That is a lie. That is a lie designed to sell gym memberships to people who are afraid of hard work. There is no inner lower head of the pec that requires a $5,000 piece of robotics to activate. There is just the chest, and you probably don't have enough of it yet to worry about the details. When Arnold walked into Gold's Gym in Venice in 1970, there were no magnetic resistance machines. There were no ergonomic handles. There was iron, cold, unforgiving, rusty iron. Arnold's foundation, the greatest foundation in the history of bodybuilding, was built almost exclusively on free weights, barbells and dumbbells. And this wasn't just because they were poor or old-fashioned. It was because they understood something about human physiology that we have conveniently forgotten. Here is the difference. When you sit in a chest press machine, the machine balances the weight for you. The machine dictates the path of motion. The machine acts as a crutch. You can practically fall asleep pushing the handles and you will still complete the rep. But when you lie down under a heavy barbell, the game changes. The barbell wants to kill you. It wants to drift left. It wants to drift right. And it wants to crush your windpipe. To stop that from happening, your body has to recruit hundreds of tiny stabilizer muscles that sleeping on a machine will never touch. That shaking you feel in your arms when you hold a heavy weight, that isn't weakness leaving the body. That is your central nervous system learning to survive. That is the concrete setting. That shaking is your body screaming, "We need to build more structure right now, or we are going to die." A machine never sends that signal. A machine sends a polite request. A barbell sends an emergency command. Now, stick with me, because coming up in just a few minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly why Arnold completely ignored the modern science of overtraining that terrifies every fitness influencer today, and why your fear of doing too many sets is keeping you small. But first, we have to finish with the equipment, because this next rule is going to hurt some feelings. We need to establish a law right now. If you cannot bench press your own body weight, you have absolutely no business sitting on the pec deck machine. If you cannot squat with a barbell on your back, do not go near the leg extension. Why? Because you are trying to hang a crystal chandelier in a house that doesn't have walls yet. The pec deck, the cable crossovers, the concentration curls, those are the decorations. They are the finishing touches. But most of you are spending an hour decorating a shack. You need to get back to the basics, the boring, scary basics, the exercises that make you nervous before you even walk into the gym. There are 4 movements that act as the pillars of your physical mansion: the barbell bench press, the squat, the deadlift, and the overhead press. These are the kings. Everything else is just the court jester. Arnold loved these movements not because they were fun, but because they were efficient. A heavy squat doesn't just build your legs. It builds your back, your core, your traps, and your mental fortitude. It creates a systemic shock that forces the entire body to grow. You can do leg extensions until the sun goes down, and you will never trigger the same hormonal response as one brutal set of heavy squats. So look at your current routine. Is it full of comfortable movements where you get to sit down and check your phone between sets? Or is it full of movements that scare you? If your workout doesn't intimidate you a little bit, if you don't look at the bar and wonder, can I actually lift this? Then you are not building a foundation. You are just playing in the swamp. It is time to step out of the mud, walk past the shiny machines, and pick up the iron. Now let's look around the gym again. What do you see? You see bodies, sure, but where are the minds? You see a guy finishing a set of curls, and before the dumbbell even hits the rack, his hand is already reaching for his pocket. He unlocks his phone. The blue light illuminates his face. He is scrolling through TikTok. He is liking a photo of a cat or watching a teenager dance in a kitchen. His body is physically present in the gym, standing on the rubber mats, smelling the sweat. But his mind? His mind is 1,000 miles away. He is gone. This is the ghost in the machine problem. You have the machine, your body, but there is no pilot in the cockpit. And let me tell you, an airplane without a pilot does not fly. It crashes. Arnold Schwarzenegger famously said that he could not satisfy his muscles unless his mind was entirely inside them. He didn't mean thinking about the workout. He meant existing inside the fiber itself. When Arnold trained, the rest of the world ceased to exist. There were no bills to pay. There were no movie scripts to read. And there certainly wasn't a device in his pocket buzzing every time someone liked his status. This brings us to pillar number 2, the mindset connection. Now, I know what you are thinking. You are rolling your eyes. You think I am about to start talking about manifesting your gains or some metaphysical nonsense you'd hear at a yoga retreat in Malibu. But stick with me, because this is the difference between a guy who lifts weights for 10 years and looks the same, and a guy who builds a legacy. This is about visualization, but it is not magic, it is biology. When Arnold performed a bicep curl, he didn't just see a metal weight moving from point A to point B. That is what you do. You count 1, 2, 3. You are doing math. Arnold was doing art. He visualized his biceps as mountains, huge, towering peaks filling the entire room. He imagined them growing with every single repetition. He convinced his brain that his arms were not just arms, but massive, unstoppable structures. Why does this matter? Because the brain controls the nervous system, and the nervous system controls the muscle. If your signal is weak because you are thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner or that argument you had with your boss, the muscle contraction will be weak. You are leaving growth on the table because you are distracted. This is why the basics we talked about in Pillar 1 are so crucial. They force you to be present. Think about it. You can sit on a leg extension machine and text your girlfriend. You can catch up on the latest sports scores while doing a chest press. The machine is safe. The machine cradles you. It allows your mind to wander into the swamp of distraction. But try thinking about your grocery list when you have 300 pounds on your back in a deep squat. You can't. If your mind wanders for a fraction of a second under that bar, you get crushed. The heavy barbell demands your respect. It grabs your attention by the throat and screams, "Look at me!" That fear, that focus, that is the mind-muscle connection stripped down to its rawest form. The guys in the golden era didn't have smartphones to distract them, but they also didn't want them. They understood that the gym was a sanctuary. It was a place of total focus. The character they built was just as important as the muscle. We talk about building a foundation for a mansion. Well, if the exercises are the concrete, then this mental fortitude is the steel reinforcement bars running through it. Concrete without steel is brittle. It cracks under pressure. A body without a strong mind creates a lifter who quits the moment things get hard. And things will get hard. The basics are boring. Doing the same squat, the same bench press, week after week, year after year. It is not exciting. It is not new content for your social media. It is repetitive. It is monotonous. And that is the point. The discipline to do the boring work, to show up and be mentally present for every single rep of every single set. That is the filter. That is what separates the tourists from the residents. Most people today treat the gym like a chore they need to get through so they can go home and watch Netflix. They are checking a box. Arnold treated the gym like a temple. He was there to worship the iron. So here is the challenge. For your next workout, leave the phone in the locker. Don't bring it to the floor. Watch how uncomfortable you get. Watch how your hand twitches to reach for it between sets. That twitch is the swamp trying to pull you back in. Resist it. Stand there. Breathe. Look at the weight. Visualize the mountain. Be the pilot, not the passenger. Because if you are building a mansion, you cannot afford to have the architect sleeping on the job. We have arrived at the moment where I am going to make some people very angry. We are going to talk about work. This is where modern science often makes you weak. It whispers in your ear. You hear it all the time on social media, from guys with PhDs in optimal living who look like they've never lifted anything heavier than a clipboard. They tell you, don't do too much volume. They tell you, if you train longer than 45 minutes, your cortisol levels will spike and eat your muscle. They tell you to recover more, as if your life of sitting in an office chair isn't enough recovery. This fear of overtraining has become a disease. It has convinced an entire generation of men that they are fragile. It has convinced you that your body is a delicate flower that will wither away if you stress it too much. Now, let's close the textbooks and open Arnold's journals from 1974. If you showed Arnold's actual routine to a modern fitness influencer, they would have a panic attack. In the golden era, they didn't train 3 days a week for 45 minutes. They trained twice a day, 6 days a week. They would go in the morning to destroy their chest and back, eat, sleep, and go back in the evening to annihilate their legs. Sometimes they would do 20 sets for a single body part. Was it scientifically optimal by 2024 standards? Maybe not. If you put a heart rate monitor and a cortisol tracker on Arnold in 1975, the machine would probably explode. But was it effective? Well, look at the photos. The man built a chest you could land a helicopter on. The principle here isn't that you, with your job and your family, need to train 4 hours a day starting tomorrow. The principle is that you need to stop fearing work. You need to realize that the human body is an adaptation machine. It doesn't grow because you politely asked it to. It grows because it has no other choice. It grows because the stress you placed on it was so great, so overwhelming, that it had to build a mansion just to survive the storm. And this brings us to the difference between the average person and the champion. It is called the pain barrier. Most people quit a set when it starts to burn. The moment the lactic acid kicks in, the moment the brain says, "This is uncomfortable," the average person racks the weight. They think the set is over. They write down 10 reps in their little notebook and feel proud. Arnold viewed that moment differently. There is a legendary story about Muhammad Ali, which Arnold loved. A reporter asked Ali, "How many sit-ups do you do?" Ali replied, "I don't know. I only start counting when it starts hurting." That is the secret. That distinction is why you look average, and they looked like Greek gods. The first 10 reps, the comfortable ones, those are just the warm-up. The real set begins when the pain arrives. That burning sensation is not a stop sign. It is a green light. That is the swamp trying to pull you down, begging you to be comfortable. When you push through that pain, when you force out 2, 3, 4 more reps, while your muscles are screaming, that is where the magic happens. That is where the fibers tear and rebuild. That is where the foundation creates a callus of steel. Arnold called this shocking the muscle. He understood that the body is smart. If you do the same 3 sets of 10 reps with the same weight every week, your body gets bored. It figures out the puzzle. It says, "Oh, I know this routine. I don't need to grow any bigger to handle this." You have to surprise it. You have to betray it. One day you do heavy weights for 5 reps. The next, you do light weights for 20 reps. You superset, you drop set. You don't let the muscle know what's coming. You treat your muscles like an enemy you are trying to outsmart. The swamp is comfort. The swamp is doing what you did last week. Building a mansion requires heavy lifting. You cannot build a massive structure with light materials and easy sets. You need volume. You need intensity. You need to push yourself to a place that frankly scares you a little bit. So the next time you are in the gym and you feel that burn and your brain starts negotiating with you, telling you to quit, remember this moment. Remember that the cortisol isn't going to kill you. The hard work isn't going to kill you. What will kill your progress is the fear of doing too much. Do not fear overtraining. Fear undertraining. Fear looking exactly the same next year as you do right now because you were too careful. We have discussed the training, the mindset, and the intensity. Now we have to talk about the fuel. And frankly, this is the area where the modern fitness industry has completely lost its mind. Welcome to pillar number 4, eat like an adult. If you walk into the kitchen of a modern lifter, it often looks less like a place where food is prepared and more like a chemistry lab or a pharmacy. You see rows of plastic tubs with neon labels, pre-workout powders that promise to make you vibrate, intra-workout BCA as that tastes like radioactive watermelon, post-workout hydrolyzed whey isolate with added digestive enzymes, pump formulas, fat burners, test boosters. People today are spending more money on colored powders than they are on actual food. They are trying to biohack their way to a physique that, quite honestly, requires a fork and a knife, not a shaker cup. Let's travel back to the 1970s again. If you looked in Arnold's fridge or Franco Columbu's fridge, you wouldn't see a science experiment. You would see a farm. The stack of the golden era was incredibly sophisticated. It consisted of eggs, meat, milk, and potatoes. That was it. There is a funny misconception that Arnold had some secret German formula. People think, oh, he must have had access to something we don't. He did. It was called eating 4 steaks a day. Modern marketing has convinced you that food is just a delivery system for macros. You obsess over hitting exactly 182 grams of protein, and if you hit 185, you panic. Arnold didn't count macros to the single gram. He didn't weigh his chicken breast on a digital scale to the nearest micro-ounce. He ate to grow. He understood a very basic physical truth that seems to have been forgotten. You cannot build a mansion out of thin air. Think about construction. You have the blueprints. That's your training program. You have the workers. That's your muscles. But if the trucks don't show up with the bricks, the workers just stand around smoking cigarettes. Nothing gets built. Food is the bricks. Supplements? Supplements are the paint. Maybe the landscaping. But right now, you guys are trying to paint a house that doesn't have any walls. You need to stop eating like a bird that's afraid of getting fat and start eating like a man who wants to get big. The golden era guys weren't afraid of cholesterol. They weren't afraid of carbohydrates. They drank raw milk by the pitcher. They ate whole eggs, yolks included, because that's where the nutrients are. They understood that to be a 240-pound man, you have to eat like a 240-pound man. And this brings us to the biggest source of anxiety in modern nutrition, the timing. I see young guys in the gym who finish their last set and immediately sprint to the locker room with terror in their eyes. They are shaking their protein cup violently because they believe in the myth of the anabolic window. They think that if they don't get liquid protein into their system within 30 minutes of dropping the weight, their workout was wasted. They think the door to muscle growth slams shut like a stone trap in an Indiana Jones movie. Relax. That is anxiety talking. That is the swamp trying to sell you convenience. Your body is not that fragile. The anabolic process lasts for 24 to 48 hours after a brutal workout. You do not need to chug a shake before your heart rate comes down. Go home, take a shower, cook a meal, sit down, and eat it. Arnold didn't stress about windows. He stressed about consistency. He didn't worry if his steak was grass-fed or grain-fed. He worried if it was big enough. So here is the reassurance you need. If you are following Pillar 3, if you are training with that high intensity and shocking the muscle, and you combine it with Pillar 4, eating simple, whole, quality foods in large quantities, you will grow. It is inevitable. It is impossible for the body not to grow under those conditions. You don't need a degree in nutritional science. You need to go to the grocery store, buy beef, buy eggs, buy rice, buy potatoes, cook them, eat them, repeat until you need to buy new shirts. It is boring, it is simple, and just like the heavy squat, it works because it is hard. Stop looking for the magic pill in the supplement aisle. The magic is in the frying pan. And now we arrive at the final pillar, pillar number 5. This is the most boring pillar. It is the most unsexy pillar, and it is the one that is absolutely guaranteed to make 99% of you click away from this video. That pillar is time. We live in a world of instant gratification. You want same-day delivery for your groceries. You want instant answers from the internet. And you want Amazon Prime delivery for your pectorals. You want the 30-day transformation. You want the 6 weeks to shredded program. Let me be very clear with you. The 30-day transformation is a marketing scam. It does not exist. If you build a house in 30 days, you are building a shack. A strong wind will blow it over. A mansion takes years. A cathedral takes decades. A legacy takes a lifetime. The swamp we have been talking about thrives on impatience. The swamp tells you that if you aren't huge in 3 months, something is wrong. So you panic. You look for a shortcut. And this brings us to the diagnostics. Here are the 3 signs that you are currently building on a swamp. Sign number 1. You change your workout program every 2 weeks. You start a program on Monday. By Wednesday, you see a fitness influencer doing something else, so you switch. Next week, you read an article about high-intensity training, so you try that. You are treating exercise routines like dating apps, constantly swiping left, looking for the perfect match, and never actually committing to a relationship. Your muscles are confused, but not in a good way. They are just annoyed. Sign number 2. You look for shortcuts instead of adding weight to the bar. You spend hours researching the best angle for hypertrophy or the perfect rep tempo, but you haven't added 5 pounds to your squat in 6 months. You are looking for a hack. You are looking for a cheat code. There are no cheat codes in the iron game. There is only gravity, and gravity does not care how smart you think you are. Sign number 3. You blame your genetics before you blame your work ethic. This is the most common one. Oh, I have bad bicep insertions. My metabolism is slow. I'm an ectomorph. Listen to me closely. Unless you have been training with brutal intensity and perfect consistency for 5 years, you have no idea what your genetics are. You don't have bad genetics. You have bad discipline. You are using biology as an excuse to be lazy. Now, let's look at the master. Arnold came from a small village in Austria called Thal. He didn't have a cryotherapy chamber. He didn't have a team of scientists. He didn't have the best machines or the newest supplements. In fact, half the time, the gym wasn't even heated. But he had something you don't. He had time, and he had consistency. Arnold viewed his body like a bricklayer views a wall. He didn't try to build the wall in a day. He just focused on laying one single brick. He made sure that brick was laid perfectly, and then the next day he laid another brick. It was boring, it was repetitive. It was the same motion over and over again for years. But eventually he had a wall. Then he had a room. Then he had a mansion. And finally he had a legacy that has lasted for 50 years. You are frustrated right now because you are staring at an empty lot and crying that you don't see a mansion yet. Stop looking at the horizon. Look down. Look at your hands. Are you laying the brick properly today? Did you eat your meals? Did you hit your reps? Did you sleep? That is all that matters. The mansion builds itself if you respect the brick. So here we are. The blueprint is in front of you. We have cleared the swamp. We have given you the foundation. The basics are not sexy. They don't get likes on social media. Nobody goes viral for posting a video of a 5x5 squat session. But they work. The swamp of modern fitness is trying to swallow you whole. It is trying to distract you with noise, with complexity, with fear, and with shiny objects. It wants you weak, confused, and dependent on the next new thing. You have a choice right now. You can close this video and keep scrolling. You can go find another video promising you huge arms in 5 minutes. You can keep looking for a magic secret that does not exist. Or you can turn off your phone. You can go to the gym. You can grab a heavy barbell, clear your mind, and start building. The talking is done. The conversation is over. The work begins now.